What's up guys, and welcome back to part 2 of the polar coordinates video. Now in this video, we'll go ahead and focus on the conversion from a polar coordinate point to a rectangular coordinate point, or the x, y coordinate point. Now, if you remember from our last video, we went ahead and focused on these equations right here. We're given an x, y coordinate point, and you were trying to achieve conversion to a polar coordinate point, r, theta, using these two equations. R is equal to the square root of x squared plus y squared, and tangent of theta is equal to y divided by x to finding theta. Now in this tutorial, we'll go ahead and focus on this section right here. And so in this section, we're given a polar coordinate point, r, theta, and we're trying to achieve conversion to an x, y coordinate point. And so in order to go ahead and do this, these are the two equations that we'll go ahead and use. Equation 1 is to find x, which is equal to r times cosine of theta, and equation 2 is y is equal to r times sine of theta to finding y. Now, let's go ahead and revisit the example that we went through in our last video. In our last video, we were given a point 4, 4 in x, y notation, and we went ahead and converted it to r, theta, which we got to be 4 square root of 2, pi over 4, which was our polar coordinate point. For this video's first example, go ahead and go from polar coordinate notation, and we'll go ahead and use 4 square root of 2, pi over 4. And we'll want to go ahead and convert back to x, y notation. Now we know that the answer is supposed to be 4, 4. Let's go ahead and assume that we don't know that. Let's go ahead and see if using the equations that we have takes us back to that point. So to go ahead and find x, you'll go ahead and do r times cosine of theta. And from this polar coordinate point, we know that r is 4 square root of 2. Multiply that by cosine of theta, which is pi over 4. And so once you go ahead and have that, let's go ahead and simplify that. And you'll have 4 square root of 2 times cosine of pi over 4, which is just square root of 2 over 2. And so let's go ahead and write this product between these two numbers under one entire fraction. And so you'll have 4 square root of 2 times square root of 2 all over 2. And if you go ahead and simplify that, you'll have 4. The square root of 2 times the square root of 2 is just 2. And you'll have a 2 in the denominator. And so notice that you have both the 2 in the numerator and denominator. And so through number properties, they just go ahead and cancel each other out. And what you're left with is 4. All right, so this goes ahead and takes care of x. Now let's go ahead and move on to finding y. Y is equal to r times sine of theta. From this example, we know r is 4 square root of 2 times sine of theta, which is pi over 4. Simplifying that, you'll have 4 square root of 2 times sine of pi over 4 is just the square root of 2 over 2. And this expression that we have is the exact same thing that we had in our first example where we were trying to find x. And so we can just go ahead and rewrite this as 4 since we know it simplifies down to that. And so since x is equal to 4 and y is equal to 4 as well, the x, y coordinate point is 4, 4. And so from this, we've showed that 4 square root of 2, pi over 4, which is the polar coordinate point r, theta, converts back to 4, 4, which is your x and y coordinate points. And so we have shown that this is true going in both ways. Alright, so let's go ahead and move on to example number 2. So in this example, we're given a coordinate point given to us in polar coordinate notation, r comma theta, and we want to go ahead and achieve conversion to x comma y notation. And so notice from this that r represents 4 and theta represents 2 pi over 3. So to go ahead and achieve conversion, let's go ahead and use the equations that we'll know will work. And so to find x, you'll do r times cosine of theta. From this, you know r is 4, and you multiply that by cosine of theta, which is 2 pi over 3. And so if you simplify this, you'll have 4 times cosine of 2 pi over 3, which is just negative 1/2. And 4 times negative 1/2 is just negative 2. So moving on to y. Y is equal to r times sine of theta. You know r is 4. And you know that theta is 2 pi over 3. And so if you go ahead and simplify this, you'll get 4 times sine of 2 pi over 3, which is just the square root of 3 over 2. And so if you go ahead and simplify this, you'll have 4 times the square root of 3 over 2, which simplifies down to 2 square root of 3. Alright, and so from this, we get that x is equal to negative 2, and y is equal to 2 times the square root of 3. So the x comma y coordinate point is going to be negative 2 comma 2 square root of 3. And so the final step is to show the conversion. And so we had our point 4 comma 2 pi over 3, which was our polar coordinate point r comma theta, and its conversion to the x comma y coordinate point was negative 2 comma 2 square root of 3, our final answer.